Marty Monster from Monsters Armory here. Just thought I'd do a update for my Coonan 357 Magnum. It's been a fair while since I've done a video, especially a review. The original video of mine for the Coonan 357 has been online now for, it's coming up to 2 years. I got this gun nearly 2 years ago, and still absolutely loving every minute of it. Can't really fault it. It just doesn't go wrong. The only thing that at any time ever goes wrong is every now and again it might not extract a round, but that's only ever a lighter pressure, somewhere in the range of a high 38 special kind of power load down to a weak Magnum. This, as you should all know, is my Coonan 357. Hopefully you've seen my first video. Sorry it's hard to get the imprint there with my lighting. Running on rubbish cameras and just poor garage lighting. So, what have I done with this one? Well, the gun is completely original and standard. The only thing that's changed is obviously I've now got the Coonan anodized grips. It's got the embossing here, which is etched, and these are anodized aluminium. These are the wooden grips that came off the gun. I still like them a lot, but they are smooth. They're not, a checkered or a textured, so they are a bit slippy. Not so much just for the odd one or two shots, but if I'm running around with it doing, as you may have seen my IPSC video, they're a little bit slippy. Mostly when it comes to mag changing, to be honest. When I have to break my grip a little bit to get to the button, it gets a little bit slippy. So these ones came from Coonan. There's a couple of options. There's one that doesn't have the etching, and there's now a few other grips out there on the market as well. I'd really like someone like Visa Grips to come out with some of their G10s, because that's what I'd love to put on it. This one, as I said, is just a completely standard original gun. It does have the Trijicon night sights. Can't really tell too much. They are nice. They work well. They sit a little bit high. I wouldn't mind it sitting a little bit lower. And for pure accuracy's sake, the front is maybe a little bit thick. But it still works very well. Please excuse my M&P tech mat behind. That's all I really have. Alright, so this one's got well over 2,000 rounds through it. Yes, for sure, most of those are not full power Magnum rounds. It would have around about 400 or 500 full power. And when I say full power, I'll talk about that in a minute. When I say full power, most of them are my reloads of full power. It's had around about 400 factory 357s through it, but I load actually a lot higher pressure than that, and I'll talk about that in a minute. What I want to do with it, I would really like to do some form of magwell funnel. These edges here are fairly square and fairly rough, and it does make mag changes fairly awkward. Trying to do it quickly, the mags just have a little bit of a tough time just getting in there smooth, catching on the edges a little bit. Once they're in, it's no problem, but it's just trying to find that area, trying to get it to go in. But it's still pretty good. Very much enjoy it. The main thing is the mag changes being a little bit slow, a little bit awkward, is just slows it down when, with it being a 7+1 magazine, only holds the 7 rounds. It does mean I have to do more mag changes than a normal IPSC stage. Now in Australia, IPSC or all semi-automatics are limited to 10 rounds. So it's only 3 down on that, but when my stages are set up for 10 rounds, bit of a hindrance. A couple of the guys at my club are recently running Classic in Major, so a 1911. Obviously this is not a full 1911, but using a 357 SIG. Again, we're not allowed to use 40 or 45, so 357 SIG is the only way you can go, because Magnum's not actually approved, unfortunately. But I do run it for IPSC, just in unofficial at my local club. Hopefully you've seen the videos, and it's great fun. It hustles pretty well around the course. It definitely hits a target, and hasn't let me down. The only time it ever lets me down is when I run it dry, put a new magazine in, and I don't rack the slide, and click, there's nothing in there. The trigger, again, is completely original. Don't worry, this has been safety checked. Trigger is completely original. Nothing's been done other than it's had the 2,000 odd rounds through it. It does have a beautiful crisp trigger. There's no movement at all. apart from just that tiny little bit of take up, and then it goes. It weighs in at around about 3 pounds, which you could take it down lighter, but I don't really feel the need to. I do have 6 mags for the Coonan. I had to wait a little while for these. I do need them for IPSC, as we said, being 7+1. IPSC being up to minimum, or up to 32 shots as a minimum for the stage. You kind of need the 6, 12, 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42 to get me through. Holster-wise, I just use a leather slide holster. Nothing fancy. I would rather have a nice gun, gentleman's gun, sitting in a gentleman's holster, as opposed to a plastic or, you know, a fancy kind of race holster. This one's just from Barsony Leather. I just bought this one on eBay. Literally $20 something like that, from America. Very basic, but it does the job. It holds the Coonan very, very nicely, and it feels nice on the hip. It sits in there very nicely. Trigger guard is completely covered, and obviously the muzzle sticks out looking pretty. We talked about the grip change. Holding the mags wise, these are a Ghost mag holder that slides up and down to suit your belt, and it's just a magnet. I actually had to make up some plastic sides for it, melted the plastic and shaped it as all the holsters these days, purely because once the magazines were fully loaded up with 7 heavy rounds, even with the heavy magnets, they were sliding down when moving. Oops, that's backwards. Sliding down when moving on an IPSC stage. So I had to make the wings for the mags, and now they don't go anywhere. Holds it really firm. So I've got 4 of those, and I just chuck one on another single magnet that I don't run with it in there. Rounds wise, as I said, mostly reloads. Okay, so I have everything written on the box. This here is 7 grains of ADI HP70, which is the same as Hodgdon Universal. 7 grains with a 136 grain lead round nose projectile. These ones are around about 1250 foot per second. So with the 136, that's, as I said, it's a medium load. It's nowhere near a Magnum. It's nowhere really near a 38 Special. It's just there in the middle. Then these are some of my home loads. I've got just a couple of Winchester 125 factories there. These ones are a 158 grain XTP, Hornady XTP, with 17 grains of ADI 2205, which is pretty much the same as Win 296. These are doing around about, well, these have been chronographed. These are doing 1500 foot per second with a 158 grain. 1500 foot per second is quicker than most of your factory 124 grain. Now, the AR2205 from ADI doesn't flash as much as the Win 296, which is in these ones, factory powder, but it is very similar ballistics-wise. So these would be a great hunting load if you're allowed to. We're not allowed to hunt with pistols in Australia. Now, in this box here, I've got some 125 grain and 180 grain projectiles, 20.5 grains of AR2205. They're hidden at the top here. Taped away so I couldn't mix them up. There's one here. Now these, again, all these hot ones are an Hornady XTP. Putting lead that fast on the barrels, and you're going to lead the barrel really badly. So these are a 125 grain. Obviously they look very similar, but it's a much shorter projectile. So these bad boys at 20.5 grains are doing 1850 foot per second. It's 1850 foot per second out of a 5-inch barrel. Can you imagine what that would be like out of a lever action or something like that? 16-inch barrel. These don't kick very much, but they are so quick. They're fantastic to fire. I love them. And the Coonan absolutely loves them. Absolutely loves them. These ones here are the big heavy ones. 180s with 14.1 grains of the ADI. Heavy. Big difference in weight compared. You can actually see there's a big Got hollow point as well. Much bigger opening. These ones, 180 grain with 14.4. These are doing 1400 foot per second. 180 grains doing 1400 foot per second. That is flying. That is quicker than your 180 grain buffalo bore or whatever they're called, 10 mils, 10 mil rounds in America that we can't really use here. So these, I can't use these at my local club. I only get to use these at a Brisbane range, where I can really let loose with some more powerful rounds. Same for these ones. Or I can also use them at an indoor range local here. And these ones as well. These Win 125s flash like you wouldn't believe. I've put a video on my YouTube page how much they flash. These ones, no flash at all. And these are just some other home load. They're 158 grams, just with nice nickel cases. So there we go. That's my Coonan 357 semi-auto second video update. There's absolutely no wear and tear on the firearm. It's working very well. The only thing you do get is on the top here, you probably won't be able to see it, you get a little bit of discoloration where the brass sometimes hits it, but that just polishes straight off. You can't really see it because I've cleaned it off. Very, very minor wear on the, just there, on the slide release catch. You might just be able to see that little nick there. I generally try not to release the slide using the slide release. I generally give it the half rack and let it go, purely just to protect from doing that. I think any kind of gun with a 22-pound mainspring is going to do some damage. That there, tiny little blemish, doesn't really go wrong. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. I continue loving my Coonan 357 Magnum. There's nothing left to envy.